Everybody, just want to give you some tips for how to modify or alter quotes that you have, because sometimes you may find a quote that's pretty close to perfect, but it has some flaws in it. It is permissible to modify the quotes that you have. Let's talk about how. So first of all, you want to think about, are there correct ways to do that? And how much can I change? Remember, the purpose of the quote is to be your evidence that what you are trying to prove is in fact accurate. So you don't want to go in and drastically change the content of it, but you can change it in slight ways that make it easier for you to incorporate into the essay that you are writing. There are 3 ways to modify your quotes. You may shorten the quote, which is really important because I'm not even going to teach you what to do with long quotes, because that is not really good writing. You can add your own words to clarify, especially if the verb choice used doesn't match the verb tense you are using for your writing. Or you can combine your own paraphrasing with the quote as a way of kind of shortening or getting to the essence of the quote. So first, if you want to shorten the quote, you can remove words to shorten a quote if they're not about the content. That is, they're just kind of, you've got this phrase there and you don't need parts of it, or it doesn't really match. So there's a couple of ways that you can shorten. Obviously, you can just shorten by getting to the part that you want. So like the original quote here, maybe I could just start it with after the phrase presented to them, which is crossed off in the example. Or you can shorten with an ellipses. An ellipses is those 3 little dots that you see there after the word kale. An ellipses, it shows you that words were removed, something was taken out from there, but it doesn't actually change the essence of what is being stated, and it doesn't change the content of what the quote is about. This is an important thing. Sometimes an author will go into some sort of tangent, or they'll talk about something else, or they'll add some description that's not necessarily relevant. Like if in that part they went into a lot of detail about how kale is made, you probably don't need that, okay? Next, you can add your own words. And if you add your own words, what you're going to be doing is putting that in brackets. That's the square boxy versions of parentheses, the brackets. And the brackets are to the right of the P on your keyboard. So you put in brackets anything that you change. So an ellipses is for things you omit or cut out. And a bracket is for things that you change. If you change, like where they've used a pronoun too many times and you can no longer tell what somebody's talking about, you might use a bracket. You can use a bracket to change the verb tense. So what you've got here, example 1, replacing for word clarity, that's changing the pronoun it's and changing it to the word Switzerland's, so you know what it is that we're talking about. Another way to do it is to change it for, like I'm adding in dietary habits to make it clear what it is that I'm talking about. It's also very common to do it to change a verb to make it match your verb. So that's option 2. Brackets for clarity if I want to change a word. And the last one is if I want to combine paraphrasing with an original quote. So sometimes you want to use some sort of a blend, like the whole quote itself might be so long you want to paraphrase part of it and then quote a little bit of it. You can do a mix of that, okay? Anything that makes your writing smoother. So here's your example. The original quote, you'll notice, is very long. And so you'll see that the very bottom there, the paraphrase and part of a quote mixed together is a way of getting really to the essence and the importance of the content without having to have a very lengthy quote. So it is a 3rd way to do this. In other words, you've got 3 ways to be able to modify. And here's another example for you here. You've got 3 ways in order to modify quotes, okay? You may shorten with an ellipses. You may alter using brackets, or and the brackets can change a word or phrase, or you use them to insert a word or phrase. And the 3rd thing is to combine using a combination of paraphrase and the original quote. And you've got examples there on the screen for the PowerPoint. And here's the 3rd one where it's a paraphrase with just the piece of the statistic. I'll leave that up for a second so you can see that option there. In other words, you don't need to use the quote exactly as it is written. You do want to make sure that you are using the quote in a way that works for you. One thing I want to make sure that I note for you, the particular examples indicated here, like you'll see where it says Edelman 2014, that's actually APA formatting, not MLA formatting. You don't put the date in your materials. That is all. Thank you.